Well, hey, everybody, it is Ellen here, and I am so excited to bring live with you tonight Marcy Ellis. And Marcy, it's really interesting because I have seen you come up on like my Facebook posts and all of that. And I have just always found you to be so encouraging and so full of light and so full of love. And I thought, I got to get this person on here. So we don't know each other personally, but it feels like
No.
we do. It feels like, we've been knowing each other for a couple years on Facebook, and it's amazing how
Yes.
that type of community can, bring people together.
I know. I love that. I love that. I know a lot of people complain about social media, but life is what you make it. It's
Hmm.
it's your perspective. And for me, when Facebook started, it was a way for me to cultivate the neighborhood I wanted to have.
Mm.
Because it's in your control. If you don't like the way somebody's talking or the vibe they're bringing across, the message that they're bringing, all you have to do is sidestep it. You don't follow them. You don't, there doesn't have to be a big skirmish. There doesn't have to be any shaming involved. You just walk away. So, yeah, I have found it to be a great way to cultivate the neighborhood that I would like to have. And um, and then I like to just show up and try to be the encouragement that I would like to find in the world.
Well,
It's
that's
kind of what
exactly
I'm in
it.
for.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's exactly what you did. That's how I noticed you. Like, you just kept coming up and you'd be like, yeah, that resonates, or thank you for this, or,
yeah,
I appreciate that. And it's just like, in a world where it's crazy, where, compliments or people, are cheering each other on can be rare at points. And I just
right.
always found you to be quite the cheerleader off to the
Yeah.
side. Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna get started, Marcy. I know that you
Okay.
have a interesting history, an interesting life journey, different paths you've taken. So why don't
Yeah.
you just introduce yourself to everyone and let's get started.
Okay. Well, I don't know what all. I was raised in Christianity, um, and was always um, we were there every time the doors were open.
Mm.
Um, my my mom was very involved in different aspects of ministry, and I became involved in ministry. I was on the worship team. I was a singer,
Okay.
and still am a singer. Um, and I became a youth pastor. Did that for a few years and loved it. Loved,
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
part of all that. Loved um, the heart connection. Um,
Yes.
but there came a point when um, I kind of fell out of love with the whole going to church thing, and there were a number of things that were happening. There was a friend group that were began meeting just in their each one another's homes, and
Yes.
then um so they were explaining to me why, their perspective on why they left the church building system, as they put it. um and for me, I felt like I had this personal connection with the spirit, and we would have great moments, and then suddenly it was time to do this, and it was time to do that,
Mm.
and I just felt like in my life, at that point, I was married to a narcissist. I had no idea I was married to a narcissist. I was miserable. I was raising two small children. Um, I had, I think at that point, I also had begun homeschooling. So I was and I'm an introvert. So I like to be alone. But at that point in my life, I was isolating because of the overwhelm of things. And so that connection with spirit was huge for me, because when I made that connection, anywhere I was. A lot of times I would turn on music when I was taking the kids to the grocery store. I'd put the kids in the back so I could have
Yep.
some
Yep.
adult alone time. And they were safely in the back of the minivan, and I would turn on the music and I would tune in to just talking to God, just pouring out my heart. And, you
Mm.
know, you find relief in that. So that's, it's important. So anyway, I ended up leaving the whole going to church thing. For me, it was because I wanted more, and I felt drawn to, I don't know, I had this moment where I was at home and I was having, time with the spirit, and I had this image in my mind of Jesus riding towards me on a white horse. And I didn't see his face or whatever. It was just this
Right.
man
Right.
on a white horse. And he rode up, stopped in front of me, and offered his hand to me, like, come on. And I didn't hear the words exactly, but in my spirit, what came to me was, come on, let's ride. Let's ride away from the system. Let's just, you and me, let's pioneer your path, you know?
Mm.
So, but I was very brainwashed. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And I'm sorry for stepping on toes, but just I just want to say my views and opinions are mine because this is my experience. And
Exactly. Yes.
if it doesn't jive with you, you don't have to pick up what I'm putting down.
Absolutely.
I'm not
Absolutely.
selling anything, you know.
Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
trying to get you to follow me. You
Yep.
should be on your path. You should be tuning into your heart and soul, listening to the spirit for yourself, or whatever
Mhm.
it is that you feel is your
Mm.
guide. You listen to that. You follow that because that
Mm.
is for you. Okay? So anyway, yeah, and then there was a Stephen Curtis Chapman song that was big at the time, and it was about the great adventure and going off into the
Oh,
wild
yes.
blue
I
yonder,
remember that song.
of
Yep.
God's amazing grace, and that is exactly what that whole Jesus on a white horse thing was. In my spirit, I knew, like, he freaked me out. Okay, he freaked me out because I was like, "You're a cowboy. You are like you're not tied in with the system. You're
Mm.
doing your own thing, your own way, because you're you." And so the whole thing of coming out of it freaked me out. I was so freaked out, but
Sure.
I knew
Sure.
in my bones, I knew in the marrow of my bones, I got to go this way. I mean, Jesus just rode up on a white horse and invited me to come along. Do you think I'm going to pass that up? Are you kidding me? No way. So off I went. And I have never regretted it. Never.
Mm.
I have never
Mm.
had the peace increasing. Um, they're just, the benefits far outweighed anything. The only thing I ever really missed was the music because I love music and I'm a
Sure.
singer and I love
Sure.
being part of that. And the like that community vibe of of everyone together. But um, it was like once you that old saying about you can't see the forest for all the trees, once you step
Sure.
back away from something
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
not right up in your grill, you start seeing so many details and so many reasons
Sure.
why.
Sure.
And so like for and my friends and family, I was like, the change that was happening in me, I think for them it must have been like a massive earthquake, and
Yes.
they felt the
Yes.
tremors and they couldn't understand what in the,
Sure.
because I had been involved in ministry. I was like all about it. My life
Right.
revolved around
Right.
that. And then
Right.
suddenly I wasn't going anymore. And
Right.
they're like,
Yep.
what are you, how are you getting fed? Because I'm hanging out with God on myself, or with myself, I mean, me and
Right.
God,
Right.
God's with us all the time. What do I need? And it's not like I don't need people. That wasn't the point. The point
Right.
was, there's got to be more than this, guys. There's got to
Yeah.
be more than this. And, when you're in deep conversation with someone, I don't know, for me, I love deep conversation. So
Sure.
I
Sure.
could go and go, but a
Hmm.
lot of people, they get to a point where they're like, woohoo, I got to, I don't know, churches, you got to do things in a certain time. So anyway, that was how it began.
Okay, so let me
I
interject
had,
because I want to
go ahead.
interject here with something
Yeah.
that you said at the very beginning, and I just want to hone in on this because I think, um, you mentioned that Jesus came to you, and you mentioned that it was scary what was being asked of you to leave, and I want to look at that just for a second because even though you knew inside yourself that you needed to do this,
Yep.
my question to you is, what were the emotional feelings that you were feeling at that time? Because if
Oh,
people may say, oh yes, I just left, God told me I needed to leave and I left, but
oh,
there's always a lot of unpacking to
oh my
that.
gosh. Yes.
So can you
Yes.
just tell a little bit about your feelings, the things that you had to walk through in order to leave?
Yeah. Um, I, it was, painful because here's the other piece. I was codependent and didn't know it. So I have been a firstborn, people pleasing perfectionist, and
Oh, I get it.
being in Christianity made that a million times worse because I know this wasn't anyone's intention, okay?
Yeah.
But all of that being said, the environment I grew up in and all of the things contributed to me hating myself,
Yes.
hating
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
Um, now, so when I left, I knew, and see, this is the thing too. I'm the kind of personality that when I see what is right and I know that I need to do it, I can't not do it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and if people, and I think too, because I know I'm a strong personality. I don't mean to bowl people over, but I I think, like, they'll say, my friends and family at the time did not understand.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. I get that one.
my my spouse wasn't really into it in the first place, so he was happy to not have to go to church anymore. He was okay with that. But I was very alone in that way too. Like, there was no real heart connection between us. So it was very, very lonely, very lonely. And I think because I'm an introvert, I was able to handle that.
Mm.
I still had family and friend connections, but it is a shock to your system to not
Yes.
do the Sunday thing anymore, not do
Oh,
the
yes.
Wednesday night thing anymore.
Mhm.
But I was already in the practice of having a meditation time or a devotional time or whatever we called it back then. So I just had more of that. I made time for more of it, and I just would pour out my heart. Yeah, there were a lot of tears shed because
Yeah.
I would go over to visit my parents or whoever. I would be on on a road trip with a friend, and suddenly I would be ambushed because you have so many gifts, Marcy, and you have such a heart
Oh,
for the Lord, and what you could touch so many lives if you were in church. I don't
sure.
understand why you think God doesn't want you in church, and blah blah blah, all the stuff. And when you're ambushed, first of all, the whole process freaked me out because I was a good Christian girl. You understand? Firstborn, people pleasing, perfectionist. This girl
Mhm.
was towing the
Mhm.
line. If you pointed out the line on the floor that my toes were going to be on, that's where
Mhm.
they were, honey.
Mhm.
That is
Mhm.
exactly. So now here comes this
Mhm.
move of the spirit, and I knew, and that, yeah, it shook me. It shook me hard.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, and it was really painful because it caused, because people didn't understand, so then there was the elephant in the room.
I
Then there
know.
was this distance created, and
Hmm.
that was really painful because, like I said, I was married to a narcissist. They are not capable of loving. They're not capable. They're messed up. And you can't fix it. It doesn't matter how much you love them. I tried 50 gajillion ways to love him better, to love him differently. So that was my life, alone,
Hmm.
raising children, basically. Um, and then, I didn't have the church support, which,
Right.
yeah. And I wasn't talking to anybody about my marriage at the time. I mean, I did reach out to a pastor. I reached out to certain people at different points in time when I was feeling really overwhelmed, and I was like, I think I have to divorce him. I don't know what else to do. And then
Hmm.
nobody nobody knew what to say, and the pastor, I remember reaching out to him, and I had called him. He had a family reunion kind of thing going on. So he was really into that, and he couldn't give me the time. And I told him briefly what was going on and how I felt, and he was like, "Well, call me, a few days from now."
Hmm.
So I just didn't. I just
Right.
didn't, because I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's me and God. That's what's up. It's me and God, and I just have to. So, and I ended up staying much longer in that marriage because I was like,
Hmm.
well, I don't believe in divorce. And
Hmm.
I remember somebody asking me, after I had left him and started my life over again, a coworker said, "I don't really believe in divorce." And I said, "That's okay." I said, "I didn't believe in it either until I did,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So, yeah. And then, that opened up a whole new
Hmm.
conversation. So,
Sure.
anyway, I
Sure.
don't know if that's what you wanted to
No,
hear.
no, it's fine. It's your story. You're sharing your story. I just think
Yeah.
it's interesting, when you do step away from the church, I think one of the most painful things that can happen is the misunderstanding from people, can be the loss of community even. And I'm not, I
Yeah.
would, community is what you make it and all of that stuff. It
Right.
is that. But I do know in my own journey that stepping away from that, there was a great loss. There was a loss of friends. There was all of that.
Right.
And I, like
Right.
you, had a very similar, not the same type of experience, but I had the same inclination. Like, I have to go. Like,
Yeah.
it's time now to move. And
Yeah.
that's not the popular thing. It just isn't.
Right.
And then
Right.
on top of it, it sounds like to you as well that you were stepping away from a marriage as well that was abusive and was harmful and was keeping cycles and patterns alive in your life, and it was not
Yeah.
benefiting you at all. And so you have like these two things happening. So you have a loss of community.
Well, they were not happening simultaneously. I
Oh,
stopped
okay,
going to
okay,
I stopped going to church in 1997.
okay,
I stayed in my marriage until 2014. I left
okay,
in June
okay.
of 2014. So it wasn't all melting down, but my solitude was profound. It was deep.
Mm,
Um, I haven't really talked about um, when I stopped. I mean, I've had conversations with people about it, of course, and I've talked with other people who quit going to church. So, you share these things, but um, yeah, it was profound because um I did not have someone even at home to lean on, you know.
mm,
I didn't feel, my heart wasn't safe with him to confide in him because he was all about himself and everything. I didn't understand at the time. I didn't understand what his problem was until I left him. And I was, at that point, I had been learning about my codependency and learning to love myself for 2 years. In 2012, I kept seeing all these posts on Facebook about codependency, and I resonated with them, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds like me. Oh my gosh, that sounds like me. And then I was, I can remember saying, I was like, God, I know you're pointing this out to me. I know you are, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to, because I don't want to open that can of worms. I feel like that is a big yucky thing and I don't want to deal with it. But I was like, if this is something I do need to look into and learn about, change my heart about the whole thing, change my heart about it. And then I was talking to one of the friends I made on Facebook was a life coach. And I was talking with him about just things. And I said, yeah, this is what's been showing up in my life. And I really feel drawn to learn about it. I said, so I bought a book and I'm learning about codependency. And this, oh my gosh, it's mind blowing because I'm seeing all these things. And he said, you know what, he goes, I think you would really like this book by Louise Hay called You Can Heal Your Life. So after we talked, I looked it up online, and there was when you ordered, I don't think you had to order anything. There was a free audio file, and I downloaded it, and she talked about learning to love yourself, and that changed the trajectory of my life.
I know that book. Yeah.
So I listened to this 1 hour message. I was sitting on my kitchen floor with my house bunny. He was hopping around, and and I sat there with earbuds in, listening as she said, stop scaring yourself. Stop telling. She just opened, I could see all the ways I had been, in the inner talk, the self-talk, all the ways I'd been sabotaging myself. And I just sat there thinking, oh my gosh, no wonder I can't ever get anywhere or accomplish what I want to accomplish, what's on my heart, because I keep shooting myself in the foot. So I was just like, ah. But so that happened in 2012. And then 2 years later, I had been making consistent soft moves in loving myself and doing some healing work, some talking with my inner child and, whatever. I'd been starting some healing work. And then, then came the day when I was like, I cannot be with this man anymore because I'm going to end up in prison, or I'm going to walk away. These are my choices. And I've already, it was so devastating for me to stand there and tell myself the truth. Like, I'm really sorry, but your marriage of 22 years is a joke. And Mars, it always was. Oh my God. Rip me to shreds. Okay. Cause I invested 22 years of my life. And of course I'm not sorry. I got my kids, that's wonderful. Right. But I also got a lot of abuse. It was because narcissists are all about control and manipulation, and they've always got to be king of the hill. And you don't know this. You get involved with them and you're thinking you're dealing with a normal everyday person like yourself. And so you keep trying to, I'll be nicer to them. I know, I'll try this. Maybe if I say it this way, they'll hear me.
Yes.
No, right. And that was my codependency too. Oh my gosh. I was trying to control everything. Oh my gosh, this is a mess. Well, let me clean it up and tell everybody it's okay. Well, that was how I was raised too. That's what I saw in my home,
Sure.
So, but I think at this point, I feel like, look, we got to tell ourselves the truth. And I don't think sometimes telling yourself the truth does feel brutal. I mean, in that moment when I told
Oh,
myself the truth, it definitely felt brutal. You
sure.
just wasted 22 years of your life with this guy,
Mm,
except for your kid,
mm,
except for that part. But that was, yeah, that was, and leaving the whole going to church lifestyle was a great unraveling. I think I was detoxing from that for 10 plus years.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
before I came to a point where I'm like, I had been in a home fellowship, and they really were getting into this. We all had read this book by Frank Viola, and he was talking about how in the early days of Christianity they met in their houses. So
Hmm.
then this house church movement was starting,
Yep.
and the people I was meeting with, I loved them. We had a good time. It was great, and um but that's the way they were headed, and I wasn't totally on board with that. But then some personal things happened between our kids, and um my my kid was kind of a victim, and when I said no, this isn't I'm not, we're not doing this, then things just kind of melted down. Instead of, I don't know. I I came away from the whole experience feeling like, guys, if we can't even manage basic friendship 101, kindergarten style,
Oh, yeah.
then I don't want to
Right.
hear. I don't want to hear about your God. I don't want to
Hmm.
hear a damn thing.
Hmm.
You keep your mouth shut. Don't tell me about, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And I think that's what a lot of people, it doesn't matter your religion, okay? People
Hmm.
are watching how you live.
Hmm.
And I, you know, I think we all want reality. We want real. If you're going to
Sure.
say you love
Sure.
me, then
Yes. Yes.
then that has to mean something. Otherwise, keep your
Yeah.
mouth shut. I don't need you to blow sunshine up my skirt. You know,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
I'm okay. If you're not really my friend, don't
Yeah.
pretend you are. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
need that. I don't
Right.
need, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
I can get entertainment from the internet, from TV, movies, whatever. I don't need that kind of stuff. Nobody
Hmm.
does.
Hmm.
So anyway, I feel
But
like
there's
I've
a
just
disconnect, isn't
rambled.
there? No, no,
And
no, you're okay. No, there's a few things I want to say. There's a disconnect that can happen in fellowship, like especially in church and things like that, because it's based a lot of times around agreement. And if
yes,
you're
we all agree
agreeing
on
with
this.
me, if I agree with you, Marcy, and you agree with me, then we can
Yeah,
fellowship together.
right.
But if you start doing something that you can even be just personally think is wrong. It doesn't even have to,
Yeah,
like, it doesn't have to be like the Bible backing it up. It can just be, I just think it's personally wrong. Then we
yeah,
discontinue fellowship and we
yep,
create the separation, which was already there long before. And I'm
right.
seeing a parallel here. I'm seeing kind of like a
Yeah,
parallel with your relationship with your husband. There was already a separation there,
yeah,
and in the church there was already a separation because it was based around agreement. And
yeah,
so that separation you don't see. It's not something you're just seeing right away until you do the step, until you say,
right.
"Oh, I'm going to go this way," and everybody goes, "Oh no, what does this look like?" And
Yeah,
I really agree. I wish that there would have been a because there's people I really still love that are in the church,
yeah,
and I don't care that they're in the church. That's fine. They can
right,
be in the
right.
church.
Exactly,
But to break fellowship, to just be like, yeah, I can't be in fellowship with you anymore. But
exactly.
it's like, wait a minute, I'm still a human being. There's still a heart there. There's still care
Right,
there. There's still compassion.
right.
Yeah, I'm doing things that maybe you're not in agreement with, but you may be doing something I'm not in agreement with. But it doesn't mean,
Exactly.
and I'm still trying to pursue friendship. So I came to a place in my own life, and I do want to talk about this thing you mentioned, but I came to this place in my life that I stopped pursuing people. because I really was. I was like trying to keep these friends that I had for 30 years. I was like,
Right,
I want to be friends with you. You know, we're still friends. How did we change one week and the next week I'm
right,
still the
right.
same person? And
It's really
it,
sad. It's
yeah,
really
and
sad.
what can actually happen from that? Then you have to go through this whole process of healing. For me, it was,
Hmm.
you know, healing the separation that had happened with relationships. So it is something. I'm completely right there with you about friendship 101, the basics there.
Right.
But you
Yeah.
mentioned something. You mentioned something a while back about how solitude became almost like your best friend. I could feel that. I
Yeah.
could feel that that things really materialized and shifted for you in places of solitude. Could
Yeah.
you talk about solitude? Could you talk about what that meant for you? What did it look like? What did you unpack during that time? What made it the way it was for you? Because I could feel the energy on that.
Um, that really, that, I guess that time period was the being out of church, still being married, but being very much alone in that relationship. Um, and it was very much a wilderness experience. Like in Christianese, that was the term that I used. It's I'm in
Sure,
the
sure.
wilderness. It's
Yeah,
me and God in the wilderness.
yeah.
And Russ Taff had a song um,
Yes.
back in the day called "There's a Table in the Wilderness," where
Mm-hmm.
the blind can see and the poor possess. And it it did deepen my spirituality. I didn't go deeper into Christianity. I went deeper into my own spirituality and my connection
Mm,
with the
mm,
spirit. And that is how I survived. That's how I survived the narcissistic abuse. That's how I survived the loneliness that my life was. That family, everything, um, all of the connections that had been a little bit deeper um, in my life, and there was a joy and a love connection in sharing our spiritual journey together,
mm-hmm.
and what we're learning and growing, yay, that ended because
Yeah,
all of a sudden it was like, well, you're not doing it my way. Now here's how I look at it right now. How stupid is that? That's like saying, you got cotton candy ice cream. I thought you were death by chocolate just like me. You know what I mean? Like,
sure,
that is
sure,
really how
sure.
silly it is.
Mm-hmm.
um but anyway, uh yeah, the solitude became my sanctuary. It became my safe place. And I would, to this day, I seek to go to um, the lowest place, the dark place, the where I can be shut in when I really want to tune in to the spirit. So I can block everything else out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I mean, I don't have to go to a basement or whatever, but in the house I live
Sure.
in right now, it's just funny to me because right now I'm in my nook in the basement.
Yeah.
It's a quiet place. It's a place I painted and decorated, but it's my creative space as well. It's just
Yes.
interesting because my best friend always says you move into a house and eventually it will tell you how to use each room. And
Mm,
that's how it has been with this house. Like yeah, anyway, all of that to say about the space I'm in right now, I turned it into an art, my writing space, my creative space, my singing space, whatever.
yes.
But what I also found in this space was that it was a great place for meditation and really just tuning into the spirit and hearing for myself, and I've had so many good moments. It's like this has become, it's been a fun space. It is a creative space, but
Sure.
also
Sure.
for some reason in this house, this is where I want to come to really tune in. And yeah, so it's become a sacred space for me in that way too.
Sure, sure.
So
So in the place of solitude, have you experienced areas of healing in your life? Did things get reconciled? Were you able to say, you know what, this was reconciled? Or are there some
I,
things maybe still open ended? I mean, you can have open ended.
yeah. Um, Back then, my place of solitude was there. I didn't find immediate healing for what was happening in my relationships
Sure,
because
sure,
this in that time period, I wasn't reading books. That's not why I came out. Um, but I was learning and growing. I was reading books as well. I don't. I'm just saying I didn't read a book and decide I'm not going to church anymore. Um, but I. This is what would happen. I would get alone so that I could tune into the spirit, and it was like the spirit would walk to the filing cabinets in my head, nice big tall filing cabinets, stuffed full of all of the things I believed and held to be true, so noble
sure.
and good. And the spirit would pull the drawer completely out of the cabinet and dump it on the floor. And
Yeah.
I would stand
Oh,
there, the two of us would stand there
mhm.
looking at the mess, and
Yes.
I would just be like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And I would feel like the spirit would point at one thing in the middle of all that junk. And the answer that the message that came to me would be, now that right there, that belief, that's true. That's true. And that's the only thing you can keep out of all that. The rest of that's junk. You don't need it. You don't need it. Throw it away. You don't
Mhm.
need it. You know, when you're unpacking or you're unlearning beliefs, that's some mind-blowing stuff. At least my
Oh my
journey was.
God. Yeah, me too. Yes.
I mean, there were moments when I was reading a book and I was like, oh my gosh, new revelation.
Mm,
And,
mm.
it was just mind blowing because I was like, what? You're right. That's yucky. And it's not. So yeah, but I would have these moments, just me and the spirit. And here comes another filing cabinet, Mars. I'm thinking, oh, that one filing cabinet and we're done. No, my friend. It's another day and we're going to deal with another filing cabinet. Let's pull it out, dump all that on the floor. You see those three things right there? Those three
Mm.
things you can keep. The rest of it, junk. Forget it. And I'm just like, this is going to take me a minute,
Yeah,
of
sure,
course. And I
sure.
had no idea. I hadn't had any healing work experience, anything like that.
Hmm.
For me,
Hmm.
if I needed healing for something, it was the altar call. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
right.
Like
Oh,
I
yes, yes.
couldn't wait for church because I needed to go to the altar call and have people pray for me. Or, I'd be so excited because the prophet's coming. He's going to prophesy over me and speak a
Yeah,
word that heals my heart, and then I can move and groove. Okay, look, there is truth in that. In the moment, you have release. In the moment, that peace that you need and that soothing and the calming does come. And if a word on time and in season is spoken to you, yes, it does impact your life and it does help you with whatever. But there are things that there was no way
mm,
healing was going to happen outside of me learning who I was, unpacking how I felt, why this bothered me, why I was upset about that. And I had spent my entire life stuffing emotions,
sure.
stuffing,
Oh, yeah,
mostly
yeah,
anger, because I wasn't allowed to be angry. That was bad. Anger leads to bad things, be angry, but sin not. And don't let the sun go down on your anger. Look, the sun went
oh,
down on
yes.
my anger all the time because I
Oh, yeah,
wasn't
mine
allowed to
too.
feel it. I wasn't
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
growing up, I wasn't allowed to tell the
yeah,
truth. Now, I wasn't allowed to tell my truth to the
right.
adults in my life,
Hmm.
because I had to toe the line and be a good girl.
Yeah,
Now, that was it. So, yeah, in my adulthood, basically, coming out of religion was it was years and years of slow unraveling, more and more gradual unraveling, thankfully, because I didn't have the support or whatever I needed
Sure.
to do it any other way. And then when I started, it's when I started learning about codependency in 2012. And when I heard that message, part of the message that I listened to that day of learning to love yourself was, she said, there's a verse that says, love others as you love yourself. And she paused, and it hit me in that pause. I have put the cart before the horse my entire life. I mean, my grandmother, I remember her telling me, real joy is loving Jesus, others, and then yourself. All these cutesy little sayings that Christians come up with, and then they post them on the signs in front of their churches or wherever, because there's the whole subculture,
there is. Yep.
The thing.
Yes.
So anyway, but I just was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Love others as you love yourself.
Love yourself.
How do you love yourself, Marcy?
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, actually, if we're going to be honest, I hate me. I can't even sneeze without scolding myself for doing that wrong too. Oh my gosh. So immediately I put to practice what she was saying, because part of my woundedness was, I got to get this right or I'm in trouble. I got to get this right so that I can be loved and accepted. But on this one occasion, I was absolutely correct about this. I have got to love me to be loved and accepted. I can't really receive love from other people if I won't open myself to it. And here's the other thing. I've been all about the love of God, and yet my entire life, I was refusing it. I was saying, thank you, Jesus, for loving me. And in the next breath, I'd turn around and say, well, I'm an idiot, and I blah, 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 and run me down and shut that love out, cut my heart off from the love that it so desperately needed. We are wired for love and connection. We're wired for that. We need it. It's not weak. It's not. Is it weak to put fuel in your car? No. Is it weak to change the tires on that vehicle so you can keep going where you want to go and get back home again? No. It is not weak to take care of your entire person and to understand that you're not a coloring book page. You are soul. You are bone. You are the mind, and you've got all these emotions going, and it is to your benefit, to your greatest benefit, to understand your system and your humanity. It's disgusting. It's disgusting that this isn't taught in schools. People don't even understand basic anatomy, basic how the body functions, and how everything is intertwined. People don't understand how you can be so emotionally and mentally jacked up, you make your body sick. It's because your body is part of your whole operational system. If a virus gets into your computer, your whole computer is going to be jacked up, right? You got to get that thing out of there. It's the same with the thoughts that we think and our beliefs. All that stuff can make us really sick. So I immediately, when I heard that message, I was like, let me, hit pause. Let me take some notes, because I gotta write this stuff down and start doing this for myself. And, it wasn't boom, and I'm doing differently.
Oh, I know.
Change does not happen like that. Change doesn't happen, but, coming back around, you said, have there been healing moments in the solitude? yes, since coming to know myself better, understanding
100%.
how my whole system functions, and then beginning real healing work.
Yes.
Once I started my healing journey, yes, solitude was such it became even more of a safe haven. That's my peaceful place where, yeah, I can tune in to my body, to sit and just ask questions, have my journal with me and start journaling. This is how I feel about this situation and about this person, what happened. And this is, and then just ask, is there anything else? Is there anything I'm not thinking? What else hurts? What else hurts? And just listen to the answer that shows up, and um and then here's the other thing. So I left, when I left my ex, it was 2014, and I moved to Colorado. I was in Ohio. I had always lived in Ohio. And but when I that moment that I told myself the truth, and I was like, this is it. I can't do it. And I heard in my heart space, if you're going to start your life over again, you need to go to Colorado.
Oh, I understand this.
I was like,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
And there was another time when I was mulling over, because I didn't just say, I can't take this anymore. Boom, I'm packing up my stuff and leaving. That's not how I did. Because I had a great war within myself of, that part of me that was like, well, I don't believe in divorce. And then this other part of me that's like, well, you don't believe in murder either. So what's it gonna be?
Sure.
And so, yeah, solitude became a very healing time. And then, yeah, just doing the things. I'm sorry, I rabbit trailed and got myself
You
lost.
did not rabbit trail one bit. You're right where you
But
need to be.
yeah, tuning into yourself, telling yourself the truth is really, I understand why everybody's not healed. You know what I mean? I understand running from yourself in fear.
Yes.
But the reason I post the things I post is because I do believe that awareness can lead to understanding, and that can lead you to empowerment. And if you're going to be in relationship with me, whether it's a real friendship, a deep growing friendship thing, or if it's a coaching situation, either way, I am not going to just let you sit in your pain. We're going to move forward. Okay. I am a cheerleader, and I am a coach, and I am capable of holding space for you so that you can safely admit whatever you need to admit, that, pouring out your heart that you're stuck, admit that you're crushed, and you can, like admitting the truth to ourselves is all kinds of things, not just like, well, I have to admit I did this deep, dark, dirty thing. No, admitting to myself that my marriage was a sham. My marriage of 22 years was a sham. Not because I was a bullshitter, but because I was married to a narcissist and didn't know. I didn't know what I was up against. The showman who treated me like I was nothing more than his elbow. But narcissists are also codependent. So they seek out other people who are codependents. And that's what I was, baby. Primed and ready to be prey. This is why I harp on the fact that it's important that you know yourself, that you learn to love yourself.
Yes.
Because this is your stability. This is how you ground and get rooted, and this is how you find out how do I need to be loved? What kind of love makes me feel safe and secure and at peace and happy? I never had a moment's peace in my marriage when he was in the house. Never. Because he had to control everything. And if I was having a good time, then he had to come along and say something snotty and ruin it. He had to poop on it. Or it reminded me of how male dogs have to pee on everything. I've got a dog, and when I take him for walks, he's got to mark the trail. You know, he's got to let other creatures know I was here. Don't forget I was here, and you just need to. I don't know why they do it. They just do. They pass messages to each other that way, whatever. But that's what it was like. You know, if you were having a good time, he had to pee on it. If you were upset about something, he had to pee on that. He had to own everything. He had to be the only opinion that mattered on the subject. And and it really sucked. So, but in where I am today,
that's what I want to ask you. Where are you?
I can see, hear, and smell that stuff a mile away.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I got you. Okay. I got you. You don't have to worry about that happening ever again, because I know what it is. And I'm aware and paying attention, and I'm not the person I used to be. I used to be, you know, always playing it nice because I had to be a good witness. I had to be, you know, it was such a relief when I realized I didn't have to save the world. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
You know, what a huge, I mean, I remember when that hit me, and this was long before I left my marriage, but it was when I'd come out of church, and I remember reading something. I was online reading something in a group forum with other people who had come out of church, and they were talking about that. And I remember, like, the light bulb coming on and just this huge weight lifting off of me. Like, I don't have to do this anymore. But I still, you know, I still was that people pleaser for a long time. And when there was so much that changed when I finally left my spouse and started my life over. And I was like, no more Miss Nice Guy. It's all about honesty and integrity. And if I don't like what you're bringing into my space, I'm not going to welcome it by being nice. And that's what I think people don't understand. Our society is so just saturated in codependency. And you know, people do have this, well, it's noble to be the nice guy and take the high road and da. And at the same time, they don't realize you're enabling bad behavior. Hello. And you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. You know, you can't go around and change people. You can't, you can't tell somebody, you know, how to behave or whatever, but you can let them know that you're not at all interested in them being in your space or whatever. No words have to be exchanged. Body language will do, you know. And if words have to be said, you don't have to get down dirty and ugly either. You can just make eye contact and let them know. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yes. What I'm hearing from you, Marcy, is you gave yourself permission to say no. You gave yourself permission to get out. You gave yourself permission. You had to do that. You had to give yourself permission. No one else was giving you permission.
Nobody
was
coming to save me.
Right. Exactly. You had to give yourself permission to open the gate and step out of that paddock and into another paddock. And I just want to pause there with a second, okay, with this, because I want to just acknowledge that with you, that you gave yourself permission to rise. You gave yourself permission to reclaim your power. You gave yourself permission to even love yourself. I mean, I'm huge on giving yourself permission, because these systems, or and I had abusive relationships too, and different ways. They push you, constrain you, control you, oppress you,
Right.
repress you. I mean,
Right.
they just they take everything out of you. And what they do is they try to take that permission away from you. And they do for a long time
Yeah.
until you become aware, like you're saying, you became
Yeah.
aware of the need, you became aware of the dysfunction that you had, and aware of the dysfunction of everything
Yep.
else around you. It was a total unpacking of dysfunction
Right.
junction.
Right.
And
Yeah.
through that unpacking, you made a choice and you made a decision. And this is the
Right.
empowering piece. And I love this about your story, is because no became no. It wasn't no, oh
Mhm.
well, maybe. No, it was a firm no. It was a firm no,
Yeah.
and then you gave yourself permission. And yeah, I want to talk for a second about empowerment, because this is your big thing. You do this in coaching too. You empower people in coaching. You talk a lot about that, living a life that is fulfilling, in your desires
Yes.
with empowering. So talk to me, of course, everybody else who's listening, but talk to me about empowerment. What does that look like? Because empowerment isn't always the brazen person who's out there like,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
what is
Right. It's
empowerment?
not
What
about
does this mean?
empowerment doesn't mean loud. Empowerment is I am going to, and this is where fiercely Marcy comes from, okay?
Mm,
I became fiercely true to my heart. Um, Again, it goes back to that Louise Hay message where she was talking about learn to love yourself. And she said, love others as you love yourself. So clearly I was like, okay, clearly my current mission, if I choose to accept it, is to love myself as best I can and to
yeah,
commit to growing in that, because it's all new to me. Loving me is all new to me. So I remember going to the bathroom mirror and looking myself in the eyes and saying the affirmation that she gave. And I looked at myself and I said, I love and accept myself exactly as I am. And I immediately, my mind was like, yeah, right. And
sure.
I said, and I continued to look into my eyes and I said, I know, but I am committing to you for the rest of my life. I will work consistently to learn to really love you, to really be there for you, because I know I fucked up. I know I did. I know I let you down, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want us to be able to fly free of all the crap and finally have my whole married life. I was trying to make our home a safe space for all of us so that my husband could come home after a day of craziness and be like, oh, such relief to be here. So that my kids, when they were out and about, when they came home, they could be like, it's safe. I did the best I could to do that, but I was the only adult working on that. So to me, when I'm looking at myself in the mirror and saying, that's what I want for us. I want this place, this
Hmm.
place right
Hmm.
here. I want
Hmm.
this to be our safe haven, that no matter where we are, we're stable because I got you. I have your back. I have your back. I'm not going to sell you short. I'm not going to sell you cheap. I'm not going to. And so empowerment is that. Empowerment is also um, staying in your lane. And,
Mm, mm,
and, we come in contact with people that we don't like their energy. We don't like the way they comb their hair. We don't like, and we get
right.
we get all wrapped up in, and I've done it too. Okay.
Me
And
too. Me too.
recently, there have been some things going on in my work life in the last year, and I work in an intense environment, and as an empath, it's really difficult. It really is draining for me. It really takes a lot out of me emotionally and mentally at times. And then because of that, physically, I feel really wiped out. But in the last year, what I've felt in my spirit kept showing up was stay in your lane. The only person you have power over is you. Remember that. You're the only person. Now, what kind of day or night, because I work night shift, what kind of night do you want to have? You decide, you set the tone. This is your life. You set the tone. You make the decision. Now, whatever happens when you encounter other people, just remember that's their stuff. That's their stuff. Just because they come and vomit all this negative, or, I mean, they dump on you, oh, I have, whatever's going on, or maybe they're getting real sassy with you. I get phone calls sometimes, and all I said was hello, basically, and the person on the other end takes out all their frustration on me, and I'm just like, okay, so wow. To remember that is their stuff, to separate yourself instead of thinking, oh, I must have, what have I done? It's not about you. What they are saying is all about what's happening in their head. Think about it, think about that. What you say is coming from here or from your heart space. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So immediately, whatever somebody else is saying immediately reveals to me where they are emotionally, where they are spiritually, where they, a lot of things. And I am somebody who, when I come into a space, I watch and listen. I'm watching and listening because I want to know what I'm dealing with, and then I decide, and sometimes I wake up and I'm tired and I'm just not about it. I don't, I'd rather just stay home. So I come, I come into the space and I'm just like, and I'm just ready at that point. Cause I'm just like, you know what, you better behave yourself or I got some sass for you too. But don't give your power away. Here's one of the big things that really I had a really hard time with a couple years ago, and I was getting so wound up about it, and it was stuff at work that was completely out of my control. And I am, I'm very, when I see things that are unfair and I see injustice and and just all out stupidity, things that don't make sense, I just can get upset about it. But I kept in my spirit, I kept hearing, you need to stay in your lane, mind your energy. That is the only thing you have any control over. So it does matter to me what's happening, but each one of us has to stick up for ourselves before we can band together or unite to stick up for, one another as a group. So anyway, yeah, just learning to stay in your lane, learning that you are responsible for you.
Oh, huge.
And let other people take care of their stuff, because the bottom line is it's codependent thinking. It's the codependent person who's like, well, I have to help them because they'll never do this. Well, then that's on them, honey. That's on them. And the mature thing to do is actually to let go and let them figure it out. Because, and in this way, here's the other part of that. In this way, you empower them.
Oh,
you support
100%.
them and let them know. Let them know, I respect your right to journey through this life your way. I don't want people coming to me, and this happened. It always happened in Christianity and my upbringing. People coming to me feeling like they could speak into my life, like they knew everything about me because they saw this thing that they didn't like. So now they're going to come over and tell me how it needs to be, and I need to this, and I need to that. And it just fed my insecurity. It fed
Sure.
the monster,
Sure.
the monster of perfectionism in my
Oh,
head.
yes.
It
Yes.
fed the self-loathing. It fed, I'm never enough. I'm never enough. I'm never enough. Is
Yes.
that really the message you want to bring to the world? You
Right.
know,
Right.
if you're a person who's looking around going, oh my God, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, your talk is putting weight in the basket. Okay,
Sure.
making it sink
Sure.
down. Okay, if you want to see something better, then baby, put your money where your mouth is, and not even your money. Put your feet on the
Sure.
path that
Sure.
you want to see people walking.
Mm-hmm.
Show them how to do what it is you think they ought to do, because that will make a difference when people see that you are legit, that you're not just a mouth running around talking all
Exactly.
the time. When they see
Yes.
that you're legit, like, oh,
Sure.
this is what she means by that, because look, I see her doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So empowerment is a beautiful thing when we are fiercely true to ourselves,
Yes. Come on.
when we honor ourselves.
Come on.
When I lived
Yep.
in
Yep. Yep.
self-loathing, I was always tearing myself down, and my wounded self just hated me even more.
Sure. Yep.
Just hated
Yep.
me even more.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am struggling, and now you're sticking a knife in me, telling me what a waste of space I am, or whatever. But as I have learned, one step at a time, because it didn't happen
No.
overnight. It's
Yeah.
taken
Yep.
consistency and commitment to what I believe in. So, but as I have been consistent, I have grown. I have learned to love myself better. I have learned what it is to honor myself and my heart. And here's the thing. We teach others how to treat us.
Oh, yeah.
Um, we we teach others. So it's really important to know yourself, to love yourself, to become um fierce might not be your thing, but to become very committed to
Yeah.
heal healing your life. To
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I remember telling my ex before I left him. I remember telling him, I feel like I'm always at the bottom of the list. I don't matter. Everything
Mm.
else comes before me. And after I left him and I was doing more unraveling from codependency, and I was so stunned by how um, enmeshed I was, like just with
Yeah.
behaviors, and as I unraveled, I realized I I was the person who put me at the bottom of the list all the time. All
Sure.
the time. It was me. It was me. Now he did it too. He did it too. Because he was always at the top of the list. It didn't matter who was in the room, he was at the top of the list. But I we all want to be seen, heard, appreciated, valued. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
say, "Hi, how are you?" but nobody stops to ask to really listen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's not a conversation starter most of the time.
Yeah.
It's a politeness. It's a nice
Right.
thing we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so um, so yeah, the to love yourself, to live in a way that honors you, that
Mm.
shows
Mm.
you respect. And here's the thing, in showing your self-respect, you're not disrespecting anybody else.
That's
Because
correct.
the more free I have become, it's made me want to turn around and say, you can be free too.
Oh,
You should be
yeah. I
yourself.
know.
I like you. I don't know what you're complaining. I
Yeah.
say that to people at work. When they run themselves down, I'll be like,
Right.
"Oh, stop."
Yeah.
I'll just tell
Yeah.
them, "Oh, stop. You're this, you're that. I think you're great. You do a great job, and you shouldn't let what other people say bring you down like that, because this is who you really are. If if a child walked up to you holding a red crayon and said, this crayon is black, you can see that it's red. Are you going to get all bent out of shape because this kid wants to call it black?
Right.
Okay, well then don't give your power away to other people like that. Don't let them speak over you. Don't let their word be the final word about who you are. This is why it is important to love yourself. You got to know yourself. You got to know yourself. And so that when people come up and they try to drop stuff on you like that, you know why they do it? Because they are insecure, because they don't feel very good about themselves. People are always talking about them when they're talking to you. You know? So when you come from it that way, you're like, okay, well, I can have compassion. I still may not want them in my space, so I am not going to welcome them.
Yeah,
I'm allowed to choose.
You're allowed to choose. Because, free will is not a sin.
It is respectful for me to be honest about how I feel, rather than to play nicey nice and bitch about you behind your back. No.
Exactly.
Either I like you or I don't. And even when I don't like you, I'm not going to mistreat you. You know, if I'm your coworker and I don't like you, I'm still doing for you what I do for every other coworker. But the difference is I will stand and talk with certain people, but I won't be inviting you into my space. I won't be standing and talking with you very often, if at all. But I'm not treating you like you're a leper or a dirtbag or whatever, because you know why? That energy sucks and I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to feel that crap. And that's exactly what happens every time I have gone to that space where I was like, oh my God, I can't stand that person. And then I sit and stew in that funky energy. And I'm the only one who's stewing in it. You know, I mean, I can't speak for other people, what they're doing, but we are in charge of ourselves. Nobody else has that power unless you give it to them. And all I can say about that is, please don't be a sucker. Don't do it. Don't give your power away like that. You know,
Marcy, I want to say, because I'm looking at the time and I'm gonna have to end it soon, but I want to acknowledge what you're talking about regarding self-love, that free will in that is not a sin. If you remember the last interview I did, I talked about how free will is not a sin.
I love that so much. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
free will
not a
is
sin.
Not a sin. It's a gift. It's a gift.
Yes.
And it's for everyone. It's a gift for everyone. Will, you get to choose to follow your path. How do I know my path? Because it's in my heart. It's in my DNA. And no preacher can tell you that. Nobody can tell you your path. You got to find it. And that is also your privilege and your honor, to find 100%. Your path, to honor your heart, and to walk it out. That is your privilege and your honor. And that is being respectful to yourself. And when you let other people do it their way, you know, like sometimes we look at people and we're like, oh my God, their life is such a mess and they need to this and they need to make better choices. First of all, let me ask you how many better choices you've made. Let me ask you, have you ever struggled with anything and had to unlearn? Have you had to break old habits?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's not so easy. So give people a pass. You know what I'm saying? And furthermore, who are you that you're going to put the time limit? You're setting the timer on this person. Okay, now you've got 15 minutes to get your act together or you're out of here. Okay, look, you need to step back and stay in your lane. That person's journey is their own. If they got hit rock bottom 15 times, let them. Let them do it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You know, it's their journey. It's their business. And you can't fix it. That's the thing. I know people want to get their hands on. And I want to help. Let me tell you something. You can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. You're wasting your time. But when they come to you and say, can you help me with this? Now there's your moment to shine and be the support. You don't try to do it for them. That's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to try to do things, you know, that it's somebody else's thing. If they really want to change, they got to put their back into it. And then I am happy to come alongside and help them or support them or cheer them on in the process. You know what I mean?
Sure,
But if
sure.
you won't put your back into it, don't ask me to put my back into it. No. We will do it together, or it can wait. It can wait till you're ready.
Marcy, I love
And
you. Marcy, I feel like I could talk to you for like ever. And I'm doing exactly what you just talked about. I'm gonna have to put a time limit on this one.
okay.
I have to begin wrapping this up. But
Yeah.
I really do want to say that there is a strength to you, and there's a way that you carry yourself, and I know that it's come from a lot of pain and a lot of struggle and all of that. It didn't, you where you are right now did not just suddenly, oh woo, here
No.
I am. No, there was a lot.
It's been a long messy journey.
Yeah,
it has been a long messy journey.
Yeah, I get it. But I want to say that I just like the things that you said about choices, boundaries. Sometimes you have to move to somewhere else. That's why I moved to England. I needed to do that. I just needed to get out of America, and I've discovered whole heaps while living in somewhere else.
Right.
Sometimes you have to make these cutthroat decisions
Right.
to thrive, to get out of survive into thrive. And I want to just acknowledge that with you. I just want to say, well done. I mean, that sounds like I'm kind of like, patronizing, but I'm not. Well done to your journey. Well done for saying no. Well done for making choices, for you giving yourself permission, putting boundaries in place, saying no repeatedly, so that you could rise where you are right now. And oh my gosh, there's so much I could say, but I know I'm gonna have to go here. But if you can, tell people where they can find you, because I know that you do coaching and things like that. Where can they find you? What does that look like, so that they can get in touch with you?
I'm on Facebook.
Yep.
I have a page on Facebook called Love You Fiercely.
Beautiful.
You can find me at Fiercely Marcy 1 on Instagram.
Yep.
And I have a website, www.loveyoufiercely.me, not .com, it's .me.
I love it.
So, which I kind of love that. I couldn't get a .com, but .me was available, and I was like, that's really cool. It's .me.
Yeah, exactly.
And also those are my initials. Like, it's not only me, but those are my initials, Marcy Ellis. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Loveyoufiercely.me on Instagram, on Facebook. You can find me Marcy Ellis on Facebook, or Love You Fiercely on Facebook. And I'm working on, I have a YouTube channel also, but I don't have my stuff together. I just randomly throw things out there every now and then.
Yeah.
When I do, then I share it on Instagram or Facebook, so people can check it out if they want to. So there are a lot of things I'm working on, but it just takes time.
That's okay. Marcy, thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for being here. Thank you for feeling the freedom just to talk and to share and to be present in this space. I really appreciate that. And you never know, we may call you on and we may do a topical type thing. So I might do this again with you, but I just really appreciate just your candor, your openness, your rawness. It was very organic. You were very authentic. And I just want to say thank you for being a person.
You're
that
welcome.
What we see is what we get. And we're not trying to I didn't have to try to figure out where you're going, where I got it. And so I just wanted to say
I'm glad, because I can rabbit trail. I was like, oh my.
You know what?
So yeah, I'm glad.
The whole point of these interviews is for people to have a platform where they feel they can be heard, where they can talk, where they can just be free. So thank you for taking advantage of that space.
Thank you.
Seriously. Sure thing.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right. Have a good one.